And we are back again, and today we're going to talk about Cloud Code. And I, the MLX King, will be showing you how I use Cloud Code every day to maintain all of my MLX projects. We're talking about more than 60,000 lines of Python code. So let's get to it. My journey in the search of an AI intern started with OpenAI Codex, where when it was released, I started using it on two of my most famous projects, MLX VLM and MLX Audio, both of which have over 100,000 downloads and hundreds of issues and feature requests that I get every single month, and people are always expecting things to be even faster than last time. Being sort of initially a solo developer and having to review as well as code new features all the time, it kind of becomes hard. And we are talking about, if we count all of my projects beyond those two, I maintain around 60,000 lines of code. And I started using Codex to initially just try and solve tiny problems that I could just see. So I would shadow code where an issue would come in. I would send it to Codex so that it could try and address that particular issue. Just put down whatever the user is saying, see how Codex solves that. Codex did a good job. I cannot lie. As you can see here, initially there were a lot of PRs, merge, and even if you don't see here merge, I actually ended up using one part of the solution or the entire solution. But I feel like Codex being something more kind of hosted website makes it a bit harder to really get into the groove of things, and also it's a bit expensive compared to Cloud Code. So out of curiosity, really, I was happy with Codex, but out of curiosity, I started testing Cloud Code. And my approach to using these type of tools, both Codex and Cloud Code, is more of a 90-10% or 80-20, where I'm actually doing most of the work all the time, and then a small fraction of the work I outsource it to these tools. Why is this? Right now, most models, and including agentic systems, are just not good at the work I do. They're not great with PyTorch and porting models and MLX and all of these different tools that I use, including transformers. They can help you in some regards, but they cannot really do novel work. And every day there are new models, new architectures, things that are actually not available on the internet so that these models can train on, or even you can fine tune it on. So that makes it a bit harder to be able to use these tools, more than 30%. So the 10 and 20% is actually reserved for a few categories that I will show you. And this is exactly what I do on a daily basis. Here are the top use cases. So the first one is project configuration. So these are Python projects, some of them even Swift projects. So I use it to, for example, update the README. Recently, there was a big change with MLX VLM where we introduced the capability of processing audio as well with Gemma 3 and the DeepMind model. It's capable of processing images as well as audio and output text. So I added that functionality, and I needed to update the README so that it could reflect this new use case and show users how they could do this. So I pass on a query to Cloud Code and it updated the README. So let me show you how that looks like after it was done. And of course, there was a little bit of tweaking here and there, but nothing much. Here's the new README that Cloud Code helped me build. So before it was just image generation, but now you have also audio generation where you pass on audio only as input, and you pass in text and you get an output of text, as well as multimodal, which is going to be a mixture of both image and audio, as well as just text. But that one, I think I missed it. I should add that here. And I also asked it to update some of the examples here. So you can see before we had just the vision example, but now we also have audio example, which is great, and a mixture of both. As well as for the server, it also updated the server where you can show you how to add just basic image, audio, as well as just both image and audio. And this is great because having to do all of this manually, it's not that it's not doable, but it's just a bit slower for me to do. I would have to manually go check all the commands, go open those files, remember how certain things are done. Whilst Cloud Code, with the context of my project, can just go ahead, read those files, and do it for me. So this is a really great thing. So and this is something that annoys me because I move so fast that I sometimes forget to update the documentation, and Cloud Code kind of helps. I wonder if I can add like a solution where every single time there's a new PR, it would check if there's any code changes that affect the examples, and then just update those automatically. That would be a nice unlock for me. And another one is I used it recently to migrate to TOML. So Python is moving away from setup.py towards TOML, and I asked Cloud Code to pretty much create a PR with this change, and I wanted to have a particular setup. There is already a PR on GitHub that does this, but it doesn't do it the way I actually expect it to. So I asked Cloud Code to do it my way, and it did a fantastic job. So instead of me going to read the website, see how it's done, look for examples online, Cloud Code can just go ahead and do this for me, which is fantastic. Another area that is super important for me is error and bug fixes. I use it quite a lot. So whenever I have a error that I know the solution and might just take me a little bit longer to do, or it's just super simple that I can outsource and do something else, meanwhile, I'll ask Cloud Code to do it. And these are usually very tiny changes. An example of this is the attribute missing error. There was a recent error in MLX VLM because I introduced audio. This is a new component that not every single model that was there before uses it, so it was generating a bug. I know the solution. It's pretty easy to do, so I just asked Cloud Code to go ahead and do it, and it did, and it did it actually quite well. You can use Cloud Code to solve especially problems that you know the solution and it's not like super complicated. And kind of going back to why I use it only a fraction of the time, it's also because of taste. I'm not sure how to encode my design philosophy and style to Cloud Code and how I expect things to be done, because the tendency of systems like this is to be super verbose, and then your code ends up looking like a soup, like it's just super long, hard to understand, although it has comments and all. That's why I prefer to tell Cloud Code what to do and how to do it when I have the problem, instead of just giving it a general task and say, hey, go ahead and do this huge thing. This is a nice segue into the final use case, which is code architecture, refactoring, and maintenance. More recently, there was an example where, let me show you this. So we had, let's zoom in, we had all of our generate functions, in particular this function here, generate step, and all of these other functions inside the utilities file, right? And I know it's just a copy paste to this generate file from utils to generate.py. But instead of doing it manually, I know what are the parameters of the task and how easy it is to do. I just ask Cloud Code to do that. I can just have it do it, and I can focus on more important problems. That's one way that I use it in terms of when it comes to refactoring and code architecture. Another way was to fix the signature of one of my functions. So someone recently introduced a PR that I accepted, but that PR changes the signature of a particular functions and a particular function, and that was breaking workflows of end users because they expect a particular way of getting a response, and the system was just returning something different. So the solution for me was pretty clear when I thought about it for a second. Instead of just asking Cloud Code to do this for me, think for me, I thought about what the proper solution would be. And once I knew what the solution was, I just asked Cloud Code to do it, which is basically refactoring the function to return an object instead of returning the tuple or whatever signature was there before. The final one is actually super exciting, which is bulk atomic changes. In this case, you have a particular function that you want to change, and you are using this function across, let's say, 10, 20 files. Instead of you going to every single file, searching, deleting that particular function, and finding ways to insert the new function, you can just have Cloud Code go ahead and change all of those files for you. So imagine this is a pretty cool way of automating boring tasks, where you have a particular task, go change a paragraph in every single file in this project. Instead of you doing it manually, you can just go ahead and have Cloud Code do all of those changes and run the tests as well as iterate on it until it solves the problem. So these are the top use cases. Let's talk about do's and don'ts. Here are the top things that I do and don't do when using Cloud Code or tools alike. The first one, when it comes to doing it, I always focus on bulk atomic changes because I treat all of these tools as interns. So I want solutions that are super precise, even if it's across many, many files. I wanted super precise solution, no more than 20 lines of code at best, but I usually prefer 1 to 5 lines of code when it comes to changes that I want to make with them. And of course, I can do more as I iterate on it, but at any particular step, I want 1 to 5 lines of code. That is good enough, and I can just continue to iterate and ask more questions and ask it to change more parts of the code as we go. And then the second one is brainstorming and proposing solutions. One thing that I like to do is try to always think about the solution before I ask it to do anything or change anything. That's one thing. But if I don't know how to go about it, I can describe what I'm thinking. Hey, I have this problem. What are the proposed solutions? And I see what solutions it can come up with. And then if I like it, I'll keep it. If I don't, might as well investigate, read one of my books, and see if there's anything there that I can find. And the final one is like testing. You should always make sure your tests are passing. If you don't have tests, create tests to ensure that as you go, Cloud Code is not necessarily breaking your code base or introducing even more technical debt than it probably already is adding to your code base. When it comes to don'ts, don't give it ambiguous tasks. Go ahead and build an entire Python package that does X. I feel like those type of tasks we are not there yet. We are not at the point where these systems can actually go and create really truly magnific projects just based on one prompt. And then huge changes. So let's say you have one file and you add 100 lines of code based on like one prompt. That is probably not going to be an ideal solution. I would recommend you go case by case, feature by feature. So if you want to add 3 features, just do 3 separate sessions, or finish the first part and go to the second part, and so on and so forth. But actually, preferably for me, 3 separate sessions keeps separations of concerns. So the model doesn't get confused and start editing what it did before. It can focus on the particular task, or that particular instance can focus on one task. And this can also be useful because Claude Code can run in parallel. So you can spin up 3 tasks in parallel, completely separate, and they get to change different parts of the code base independently, and that is a much better approach. The final one is shipping without tests. If you're using this type of tools, you should always test your code. If you don't have tests, make sure you create those tests. And actually, I wouldn't recommend asking it to create the tests at the moment, because you need to be the expert in your code base and be able to create really proper tests that the model will use, or the system will use, to be able to check the changes and make sure that they are in line with what is expected of the system. I've seen instances where we were working in projects and shipping production code, and every single time, personally, I've seen tools like this being used without tests and proper supervision, meaning a human reviewing the code. It ended in disaster. That's why, for me personally, I always review the code manually. Next up, we're going to do a deep dive on Gemma 3N and talk about all of its multimodal features, so audio as well as image, and we will get into MLX audio. So feel free to give us a star on MLX VLM on GitHub, as well as MLX audio. I would really appreciate it. And if you have a Mac, make sure you pip install these packages, take them for a spin, and let me know what you think. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.